So I want to thank Tony for that clip, because it kind of leads right into what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about learning to play the infinite game. And what does that mean? It's something that I've been working on for... Okay, so let me back up. The first presentation I gave you guys was about how to... your teaching. The second one is how to motivate players. Now, this is working on leadership. This is a leadership module. It's very near and dear to my heart because it changed my life greatly about 8 years ago. And so I'm going to take you through it. There's the book, The Infinite Game. I'm going to give you about 6 or 7 reads. Terry, I'm going to give them, you were mentioning it to me before. I'm going to give you a sample of the best leadership books that I like, and the reason I like them is they're simple, easy to read. My staff, I have my staff read them. But the latest one is The Infinite Game by Simon Sinek. How many of you guys, by show of hands, know who Simon Sinek is? So some of you are just not readers, right? I get it. When I was younger, I wasn't a reader either. Now I read 3 books every week. It's constant. But what I would highly recommend you do is go on YouTube, type in Simon Sinek, and listen to his TED Talks. That'll be a good introduction to you. I'll promise you, you will like it. He's very practical, and he's very, very good. So we talk about the infinite game and the finite game. They're constructions. Baseball is a finite construct, right? We know we have a set of rules. There's 3 strikes, 4 balls. The team that's ahead after 9 innings wins. That's a finite construction, right? There's a specific time frame, 9 innings. There is a winner and loser, and the goal is just to win the game and beat the competition. That's a finite construction. All good. That's what we coach. However, the challenge is that's not our life. That's the game that we play, and that's good. But when we play the game of life, or we play the game of business, or we play the game of relationship, if we have a finite game, can you imagine in our relationships there always has to be a winner or a loser? That's not going to work well, especially if you're married, right? The old saying is you want to be happy or you want to be right? I chose happy most of the time, right? So there are rules. The infinite game, there are rules that are constantly changing and not mutually agreed upon. That kind of sounds like life, doesn't it? The rules are constantly changing and they're not mutually agreed upon. And there is no time frame, and players drop out when they lose the resources or the desire to play. And the goal is to perpetuate the game or to stay in the game. That is the infinite construction, right? So in my business, I've been doing what I do at the Texas Baseball Ranch for 25 or 26 years. And for, I suppose, 16 of it, I ran it as a finite construction. I was trying to beat the competition. I was trying to break the income barrier. I was doing all these things, right? Then along about 8 years ago, I changed my construction of how I viewed things. Changed my life. So, it truly changed my life. It changed everything that we did at the ranch, and so I'm going to share with you today. And this is how we can help our players. So, a finite player's goal is to beat each other, right? An infinite player's goal is to be better than their previous selves. That's the infinite construction, right? So in the game of baseball, it is important. I think when we're coaches, we need to have both. In our lives and in our businesses, in our relationships, we need to be an infinite construction, a construct. But in the game of baseball, I think you would agree, that we want to beat the other team, but it's also very important how we remember. I can't remember who said it. I don't know if it was you, John, or if it was someone else said that John Wooden never really talked about winning. It was you? I'm sorry, Tom. Yes, I've heard you so many times. I just think you're me. John Wooden never talked about that, but yet he's the most prolific winner in the NCAA history as far as team sports. How is that possible? Well, John Wooden was really more interested in getting better every single day himself, and that took care of the winning, right? So now, let me give you an example. Microsoft versus Apple. Microsoft, and now they have new leadership, so Microsoft's kind of changing, but this is probably about 2005. Microsoft was consumed by beating Apple. Right? And every thing that they had, they were talking about how they're going to beat Apple and how they're going to compete with Apple. Apple, on the other hand, never was consumed with Microsoft. They don't pay attention to Microsoft. They pay attention to getting themselves better and creating better products, newer products, and being more valuable in the marketplace. So one is playing this way, and one is playing this way. Now, Simon Sinek tells this famous story, and I love to tell it to you because I tell it to my players as well. Simon Sinek spoke at an education conference with Microsoft, and he spoke in an education conference in Apple. So both of them brought him in and paid him a lot of money to talk, right? So when he was there, Microsoft spent about 70% of their time and 70% of their lectures talking about how they're going to beat Apple. In the Apple conference, 100% of the speakers and 100% of the presenters talked about how they were going to help teachers teach better and have students learn better and make their products more usable and productive, right? So he got in the cab to go to the airport with one of the top 12 Apple guys, one of the top, and he gets in, and at the Microsoft event, as a present, they give him the new Zune, and it's a thing so you can listen to music and that sort of thing. And he said he really liked it, and he got into the cab with the Apple guy, and he said he just likes to stir pots, and he said, Microsoft give me their new Zune, and it's so much better than your iPod Touch. Trying to stir, kind of poke the bear a little bit. And the Apple executive said, I have no doubt. End of conversation. And he's like, he thought he was going to get something going, right? Because Apple is playing this way, and when you play that way, you realize sometimes you're ahead, sometimes you're behind, sometimes other people play better than you, some people make a better product than you. It's going to happen. You don't focus on that, right? And so he did not take the bait because there's no bait to be taken. He just goes, I have no doubt, right? He's more concerned with what Apple is going to do tomorrow, not what Microsoft just did 2 weeks ago, right? That is an infinite construct, right? So Apple is obsessive with self-improvement and creating extreme customer value. So now, here's the thing that your players need to know. And the parents and the players' parents, and sometimes you as coaches, sometimes your assistant coaches. It's the comparison trap. And boy, do I deal with this. I deal with this every day at the ranch. My group they get so caught up in what is this person doing? What's this doing? We just love a ranking, right? Everything, we're ranked here, we're ranked there. Although, here's the problem with rankings. They're arbitrary for the most part, right? And I'm going to show you, sometimes you're so concerned about being the top, you miss the whole point of the whole thing. You're focusing on the wrong thing, and I'm going to prove it to you. Some of you are like, I don't know. I'm going to prove it to you. Being number one in some sort of arbitrary ranking really means very little. And the desire, intense desire, I don't know if it's an American phrase. It's, I don't know if keeping up with the Joneses, right? So our neighbors get a brand new TV. Boy, we got to go get a new TV, right? We're comparison. We're always comparing ourselves. And it's very dangerous because instead it's an external focus rather than an internal focus. And here's the Dartmouth study, and this is pretty sad, right? The Dartmouth study asked people in the United States, would you rather have a free $500,000 house in a neighborhood of 250, right? Or a $1 million home in a neighborhood of $4 million, right? So you get the construct, meaning that you can get a $500,000 home and everybody around you is $250,000 homes, or you can have a $1 million home and you're in a neighborhood of $4 million. 69% would rather have the five. You know what? They just want to be better than their neighbor. 69%. This blew me away. I'm taking the $1 million house like that. Right? Right? But that's not what when you have a finite construction in your brain, you just want to be better than the person to the right of you and person to the left of you. That is not leadership. Right? Imagine now when we're trying to cooperate with one another. The game is always, how can I beat you? Right? This is classic finite thinking behavior. I have to admit I had it. Not to this degree. Even 20 years ago, I go, give me the $1 million home. However, I still had a finite construction. I was a comparison guy. So now let me give you an example of being number one. Right? I'm not just going to give you one. I'm going to give you multiple. All right. Brett in Sports Illustrated. Brent, this is for you. I hate to do this to you because this is an SC guy. Bred to be a superstar. In Sports Illustrated, bred to be a superstar. Todd Marinovich. Oh, yeah. Considered to be the best high school quarterback ever. Ever. Right? I'm not going to read this to you, but he passed national high school record for 9,000 yards. He was in Sports Illustrated. He was drafted by the Raiders in the first round. He was drafted ahead of Brett Favre. You might have heard of him. $2.5 million deal. This guy is unbelievable. I don't want to be Todd Marinovich anymore. Right? Crashed. Here's why. One of the reasons he crashed. He had one goal all the way through when he was little. It's to be an NFL quarterback. He got there. Now what? Now what? It's an empty, huge feeling, right? If life is just about you being an NFL quarterback and that alone, once you get there, you just kind of go, there's nothing else there. Right? There's nothing beyond that. And he crashed and burned. The greatest high school quarterback ever played 3 games in NFL. 3 games and then done. Right? So, our kids, right? On social media, on this success, fame, fortune, how many likes we have on, how many people, how many followers we have, right? We want really to be popular. So that's equal to happiness, right? Make a lot of money. I talk to young people. I want to be successful. I want to be famous. I want to make a lot of money. Okay, let me help you with this. Right? Tell me if you know anybody, these are all American icons. I apologize. It's just American. However, most of you would know these people. It would be hard-pressed to find 6 people more popular, more successful than Elvis Presley, Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston, Bill Cosby, Marilyn Monroe, and O.J. Simpson. Can you think of anybody that would be more wealthy, more popular, more famous? And how are their lives? Absolute shit. Absolute disaster. Miserable. Not just a little bit miserable. Horribly miserable lives. So is that the goal? I tell my young people, is that the goal? There's 6 that they have done this in perfect fashion. Completely miserable. So is that the goal? I would tell them, that's a finite construction. I'm going to have the most likes. I'm going to be the most popular. I'm going to be the most wealthy. And I have a young man that's trained with us as a baseball player, and I worry about him a lot because he's in the same path. It's about that, and he is missing the boat. So who are bigger stars than these 6? Nobody. So, what about, so my young guys go, okay, Marilyn Monroe. Okay. Elvis.
He's still alive.
He's living in Switzerland, obviously.
He goes by the name of Pedro.
So I don't leave it there with my kids, right? I don't leave the message because now I want to talk about today, right? Or more, I mean, not actually today, but more recent, right? Colin McGregor, right? Wow, really, just, yeah, it's going really well. Right? I know he's a showman. Part of the deal, right? Part of the deal. But it's all about me. He's good. He's awesome. I don't want him as a next door neighbor to you. Right? I like listening to his, I do. I get a kick out of it. Right? I don't want him as a neighbor. Do you want him? Do you want your daughter dating him? Do you? Of course not. He's a train wreck. Literally. Right? But our guy, so my son really likes kind of, that walk, right? My son can do it. Right? But I have to remind him, this is what ends up. When it's all about you and not about anybody else, you are just a train wreck. You just don't know what exit you're going to blow up at. Tiger Woods. Who was better than Tiger Woods? Yeah, this went well. Right? Best. When that went south, boy, did it go south. Right? This is what happens. So, is the goal to be number 1? Is that it? Number 1 ranking. That'll make you happy? No. Not necessarily, right? Cam Newton. Here he is after the Super Bowl. Kind of different, right? Didn't go so well. How does that work? Right? Now, some of you are like, oh, well, some of my young guys, well, this is just for fun. I get it. I'm not just judging him solely on that. I get it. It's a show. I get it. But it's more than that. This is always about him. It's always about him. Is that what we want our young people to do? Is that what we want our young people to do? All right, hear about this. Wow. Who's better than him? Lance Armstrong. What did we find out? This is what I'm talking about. To your young people, do you think they need to see this? And be reminded of this? Remember I said about perspective and about having a sense of proportion. Right? This is what it's about. This is a finite construction. The whole goal was to what? Win. At what? All cost. Cheap, lie, steal, doesn't matter. It's a finite construction. So, what is the critical difference between being a leader and an authority? Okay? And I want you to think about this for a second. Do your players follow you because they have to? Because if they don't, you can punish them? So at the Texas Baseball Ranch, I am the leader of my organization. I have the power to fire you at any moment. That's powerful, right? So the question is, do people follow me because they have to? Because if they don't, I will fire them? Or do they follow me because they want to? Well, that's interesting, isn't it? Right? That's very interesting. Do people play for you because they want to? Do they follow your lead because they want to? Or do they because they have to? This is the difference. So a lot of people are an authority. Here's what I mean, right? You know you have either worked or played under someone like that. And as soon as they're not in power anymore, what happens? You escape from them or you reject them that quickly when they are no longer in power. That's the difference between being a leader and a authority. So now, I'm not trying to be too spiritual with you, but let me give you this. Which one is the true king? Here's a king, the knight bowing, king washing the feet. Now, which one is the servant leader? Which one is the authority? Now, here's what I'm saying to you. When the shit hits the fan, who do you follow? Right? So, I want you, you're a coach. When it gets bad, do people line up behind you and go where you go? Then you know you're a leader. If you're not, you're just an authority. Right? I don't want to be an authority. If you call me a guru, I'll hit you in the nose. I am a teacher. That's all I am. And I try to lead my organization. And we use this all the time. That doesn't necessarily make this guy bad. I'm just saying. That's what we're trying to become. The servant leader, in my opinion. Jim Rohn, who Jill and I know personally, commit yourself to something bigger than yourself. Right? Is Cam Newton committed to something bigger than himself? Is Lance Armstrong committed to something bigger than himself? Conor McGregor, I don't know if he knows anything bigger than himself. He is the biggest. That's the deal. So my personal story with regards to the infinite game. Really quickly. How this touched me. Income. About, what was it, Jill? About 8 years ago? 9 years ago? Okay. We finally made $1 million. Personally, right? For the year. Right? Funny thing happened. Nothing. Right? It was a goal. It's a goal. It's a goal. It's a goal. It's a goal. We got it. Done. My life wasn't better, was it? Right? It was done. Right? And I realized that wasn't the thing. That wasn't just the thing. And since we made a lot more than that a year. But that's never now the primary option. Primary purpose for what I do. And here's the great news. Make more. But now it's not because of that that's driving me. Criticism. That last clip that you played. And then your comment. It is impossible for you to be good and to avoid criticism. It cannot happen. Right? One of my good friends, Greg Brown, who coached my son, says, nobody boos a nobody. Right? So, the better you get, the more criticism you're going to get, no matter what you do. you're going to have people that are going to make comments. And all of us don't like it. I don't like it any more than you like it. But I've learned to do this. You will know, I don't know how many of you guys are on our Twitter feed. I don't know how many of you guys follow us on Facebook. Have you ever seen us ever attack anybody or make a negative comment ever? You'll never see it, ever. It's not who we are, right? It's just not who we are. I was talking to Carrie last night about when you have criticism, you gotta consider the source, right? So we don't fight back. We don't fight back. We just stand for who we are, and we are imperfect, right? So a lot of the criticism. Here's the thing that I could give you advice on criticism. It is the easiest thing to do is to criticize others. It is easy. It takes no skill. Because we're all imperfect. And there's not one of us that doesn't have a flaw or a short. I mean, it is not hard to find a flaw of mine. My son finds them often. It's not hard. Right? It's not hard. For any of us. So if that's where somebody wants to focus their attention on you, I would say, that's right? And by the way, when you hear criticism of others on somebody else that's totally separate from you, most of the time we're not swayed by that either. We go, right? So they think they're making a lot of grain. And there's an old Chinese proverb that says, you cannot gain ground by throwing mud. And that's one of the best ones that I stick with. You can't gain ground throwing mud. Impact. This is what I'm trying to do. Every day I wake up and we wake up and we say, do we have impact? What is the impact we're having on the people that are inside that we touch? And that includes, by the way, when we take our staff out to eat, or it's the impact on the waiters that wait on us. Brent and I where we go? Julio's. We go over to Julio's on Friday nights at a clinic. We go over there, and they love seeing us come. One, I tip really well, and that helps. But second, it's the one way they can give back because we're so pleasant to them, and we take care of the people. You've been there, you've seen it. It's that we really like the people that we're dealing with, and we try to have make their lives better. And then legacy. What are we going to leave when we get done in this world? How we want to be thought of as we're managed. And here's, I think, is a definition you can really use for your players. Because if you say that I want you to, if you say to some of your players, I want you to be the leaders, they'll go, I'm not. Well, I think everybody should be a leader, but not in the classic definition of a leader. Here's what I think is a leader. You take care of the person, your brother or sister to the right of you, and you take care of the brother or sister to the left of you. You're a leader in a very small way, and that's all that is required. You take care of the people next to you. Leadership is a learnable skill, and leadership may be the single most relevant and powerful element in achievement and even to happiness and personal fulfillment. So here, let me give you some of my top leadership books. Simon Sinek, start with the Why, Leaders Eat Last, and The Infinite Game. Ryan Holiday, The Obstacle is the Way, and the Ego is the Enemy. Yeah, Miguel Ruiz, The Four Agreements. David Marquette, Turn Your Ship Around, and James Kerr, Legacy. Take a picture of those. I'll promise you, every one of those reads you will enjoy. They're easy to read. Remember, I'm recommending these to baseball guys. And it's got to be a book, right? If it gets too technical, they're like, It's going to have a couple pictures in there, a couple charts. All right? So, let me give you a real quick, the Four Agreements. Probably number one on this list, this will be one of the first one I read. Number one of the Four Agreements, because each one of these is the major classifications. How many people have ever read this book? Wow. It's a really, really good read. Number one, be impeccable with your word. Number two, don't take anything personally. Boy, is this a good one. Right? I'm just going to read underneath it. Nothing others do is because of you. What others say to you is a projection of their own reality, their own dream. When you're immune to the opinions and actions of others, you won't be the victim of needless suffering. Don't make assumptions. This is big. We always make assumptions. We assume that somebody is. Just don't make assumptions. And then always do your best. It seems really simple. These are really good. The obstacle is the way. The timeless art of turning trials into triumph. Anybody read this one? And the ego is the enemy. Okay, so let's take a little bit. The obstacle is the way. There is no good or bad without us. There's only perception. There's the event itself and the story we tell ourselves about what it means. And then, for Marcus Aurelius, our actions may be impeded, but there can be no impeding our intentions or dispositions because we can accommodate and adapt. The mind adapts and converts to its own purposes the obstacle to our acting. Now, here's what this means to me. At the Texas Baseball Ranch, we follow, I think somebody else, John, did you have a constraint-led approach? Is that what you said something about? Okay. I think that's the wave of the future. I think from here on out, we're going to be doing a constraints-led, that's what we focus on, right? So what a constraint is, what is your constraint? So let's just talk about your personal health right now, right? All of our personal health. What's the number one constraint in front of you? You probably already know what that is, right? So whether that is you don't get enough sleep, it's the diet you have, the hours you do, so you look through that. And what you do is you attack that constraint until it is solved, and then you go to the next, because there's always going to be what? The next obstacle. And he talks about, Marcus Aurelius talks about, the obstacle is the way. Break through that, and there'll be another one. So that's what we talk to our players about. So at the Texas Baseball Ranch, if we have 60 kids come in, some kids need to work on arm health, number one. Some need to be velo. Some need to be command. Now, everybody always goes, oh, all of them. I love that. All of them, yes. No, there's a primary one that's most limiting you right now, and that's the one you have to address. The ego is your enemy, not your friend. The ego that gives you wounds and hurts you. It's the ego that makes you violent, angry, jealous, competitive. There's the ego that can continuously comparing and feeling miserable. Now, if you remember, I can't even remember if yesterday or the day before now, Marva Collins, teaching inner city Chicago black kids. She was a principal. And she would do this, it's a brilliant thing. In the schoolyard, of course, they would have fights. And they would bring them into her office, and there'd be two boys, and they had black eyes, and their hair is all disheveled. And she goes, okay, what's the deal? And they go, oh man, he called me a fool. He disrespected me. She goes, oh. She goes, so, are you a fool? And he's like, she says, well, let me ask you a question. If I call you a tree, you gonna hit me? I call you a tree. And the kid's like, what? A tree? Yeah, you're a great, big, huge tree. He goes, I think you're nuts. She goes, yeah, because you're not a tree, are you? Yeah. So, really, it was only your perception of what I said that made you upset. It's not the word, it's what you perceive the word to mean and how you internalized it. And so what she did, she taught these young black youths that no word is dangerous until we interpret it as such. So I could go to France right now, where are my France friends, and somebody in France could be walking down the street and really give me a tongue lashing. And if they smiled at it, they could call me every name in the book. If they smiled at me, I'd probably wave at them. I would have no idea what they're talking about. He could call me the stupidest, ugliest human being on the face of the earth, and if he said it nice enough and waved at me, I would wave back. I have no idea what they're talking about. I can't interpret it. The word, since I did not understand the word, it had no meaning. That's what he's talking about. The ego, our self, is what hurts us. Turn that ship around. Turn your ship around. Interesting thing. This is a nuclear submarine in the United States Navy. This guy, right here, was kind of given a really crappy assignment. His job, he thought he'd done a really good job his whole career, and he was finally going to get to captain a nuclear submarine. Won't Grandma be proud? Until he found out that it was the worst performing ship in the Navy. Wait for it. In the history of the U.S. Navy. It was horrible. So he gets it. And they all go, here you go. And in 2 years, he turns it into, wait for it, the best performing ship in the Navy in Navy history. How did he do it? Well, let's talk. He said, here is what the Navy taught him. Take control and attract followers. Give orders. Train others. Provide the best solutions. Be resolute when giving orders. Have meetings. Limit communication to succinct formal orders. Be questioning. Protect information and make inefficient processes efficient. Does this not sound like something you have been part of? This is the military. Here's what they did. Give control. Give, not take. Give and create leaders. Give intent. Allow others to learn. Allow others to find solutions. Leave room for questioning. Have conversations. Augment with rich contextual information communications. Be curious. Share information. Not protect information. Share and eliminate processes that don't add value. Get rid of them. Turn it all around. Now, you'd think that U.S. military would go, what? This is the funny thing about life, right? This guy took the worst performing ship in naval history, turned around to the best, and he leaves the Navy, and guess what they still do? They can't, they're stuck on stupid, folks. That's what a bureaucracy is. It's so entangled in itself it can't break loose. Some guy came along and turned the whole thing on its head and did this. Right? Now, he talks about the story. How many have read this book? Well, we got to get to work, don't we? Turn the ship around. Now, one of my favorite passages in the book is there in the Mediterranean Sea doing maneuvers, and he says, the captain here says, go this way. And in the Navy, in the previous Navy, when your commanding officer said, go this way, what do you think the person in charge, the person steering the ship does?
Goes this way.
Goes that way. It would have been the wrong move, and it would have sent him into a sandbar. Now, I don't know, you guys can just follow me. A nuclear submarine stuck in a sandbar, that's not good. Right? And the person at the helm said, belay that order, change course. When does that happen in the Navy? Right? And that's that was the environment they created. That everybody knew what we're trying to get done, and everybody's helping each other. And so when the captain of the ship, which is often me, and I have a lot of people, not just her, but a lot of people will say, I'm not sure, Ron, they'll pull me aside, I'm not sure that's what we need to do. And probably, a vast majority of the time, they're right. And you've got to listen to those people. All right. Legacy, we're almost finished. Legacy. About the All Blacks. Yay, where's my Kiwi girl? Here you go. All Blacks. She's too busy. All right. So now, here's the deal. The All Blacks rugby team, about 20 years ago, I mean, they've always been very good, but about 20 years ago, they did not play well in an event, and a whole bunch of them got drunk, and their captain, on the way back to New Zealand, when we got on the plane, he said, I'm done. I don't want to play with this group anymore. We're really good, but I don't want to be part of this, right? This is not handled well, and everybody started to think, if the captain doesn't want to play, there's something, and they fixed the culture. They totally flipped it. Now let me tell you how they flipped it. But I think even Terry has actually done this. I don't know if you didn't even read the book, and you did it internally, didn't you? Here's the deal. In American sports culture, and I don't know about anywhere else, but in American sports culture, the elite players they're the show ponies. They don't carry their own bags. They're taken care of. Everything's taken care of. You leave the dugout or you leave the clubhouse, it's a mess. You just throw stuff. Somebody else will pick up after you, right? You just throw wrappers around. You're like a king. Here, pick this up. New Zealand, here's the problem with that, right? So if you're a rookie in an American sports professional franchise and you see this superstar, your whole thing is, someday I want to be that guy. And you're watching this behavior. And you're watching this culture unfold in front of you. The Kiwis did something different. They flipped it on its head. The person now that sweeps the sheds are the stars. The elite, the very best players, they're the ones that clean up. They're the ones that carry the bags. They're the ones that take care of everything. Now, what is the result of this? Young players coming up want to be the star. They see this behavior. What do? They want to emulate that behavior. That's what changes culture. That's what changes culture. So we always have, when I grew up, the freshmen always carried the bags. Right? The other people, the little people, took care of that. Now, a famous story that was done on YouTube in 2015 in London at the World Rugby Championships. Two clubhouse attendants that were both Brits, little Brit boys, 15, 16 years old, and they're in charge of cleaning up the clubhouse. And so the BBC came in with their cameras and they said, so who's your favorite rugby team? And of course, who did they think that these little Brits are going to say? Right? England, right? But these both said, no, the All Blacks. They're like, uh-oh. That's not good. Right? And they said, well, why is that? And they said, the All Blacks, when they leave the clubhouse, it's cleaner than when they came in. And they give us the best tip. So not only do I have to not do anything. Right? Now, what happened to that? It's called, and here's your note that I would think you'd like to take, is leave, wherever you go, leave a profit. Leave a profit. Leave, and we try to do this when Jill and I, actually in our hotel rooms. When we leave the hotel room, I want to make it as nice. So I actually have this fantasy that the attendant comes in to clean my room and goes, oh. Right? What's up with that? Because I want to make people glad I was there. Right? Now, in America, I think Brent told me that when the Japanese leave the dugout,
yeah, it's sparkling, clean. Ours is like filthy.
right? That's just about culture. It's just simply about culture. It's about leaving, in our opinion, leaving a profit, making sure people are happy that you're there. That's what you try to have. Now, let me show you what we've done. And this is my last slide. These are our two legacy groups. And I'm going to share, how much time do I have?
About 2 minutes.
Okay, good. That's perfect. So, I have these two groups. This is the first one that was ever done. And this is the last one. As you can tell, it's grown. And you can tell I either have really tall people or I'm short. So here's the deal. We have a legacy program. Here's what the legacy program does. We, out of our 100 kids that are we choose our best performers, our guys that have been with us that we really like. Not always the best performers, but just the best kids, the best, and most of them are also the best performers, but the best of the best. And we bring them in at 8 o'clock, an hour and a half before everybody gets there, and I give them a mindset, another mindset. And we talk about leadership, and everybody, all these guys have to read this book and pass out of it and all that. And then, you know what we do? We all go down and we clean the sheds every single day. And it's immaculate. The place, the ranch is immaculate. Now, then the regular guys come in, and these guys are my leaders. These guys are the heartbeat, the culture of the place. And they're trained that when a young man doesn't quite know a drill, they put their ball down and they will go help them until they understand what they're doing, and they will go back. And it has been remarkable what has happened. Absolutely remarkable. And I will close with this. About middle of this summer, I saw something that I couldn't believe happened. One of our players of our normal group was doing some things with some arm care balls and just left it on the ground. Just put it on the ground. One of my legacy guys was this kid right here. Real tall, giraffe-looking kid. He was will be drafted and will go to the University of North Carolina. He watched this kid put the ball down. He goes over and he puts his arm around him. And he says, that's not where we put that. When you're done with that, every place has a place to, when you're done. So he took it, walked him over, showed him where he put it down. And he goes, I can relate, I've been there too. Let me help you out with that. It was amazing. And the kid is looking at this star. Here, he's the star. They know he's one of the alpha dogs. They watch him break. He hit 98 miles an hour on a turning bird. They look up to him, and yet this is the young man put his arm around him, helping things. It's remarkable. That is what culture is. And I had nothing to do with it. I'm sitting back there watching it. I almost cried, right? But the deal is that when you take care of your brother to your right, he didn't go, hey, pick that up. I was down here earlier today cleaning that crap up. Pick that up. That's not what he did. Because that's not how he was treated. By me or my staff or when he was younger. He's been here for 8 years. That's what culture is. So what I would going to suggest that you do is take care of your brother to your right or your left or your sister. Don't fall into the comparison trap. Don't be obsessed with your competition and external. Instead, be obsessed with incremental daily improvement and advancement. Refuse to be baited into arguments or tit for tat or social media on the internet. Commit to something big in yourself. Be a person of value, integrity, and a force for good in the world. And know the game you're playing. And in your life and in your relationships and your business, learn to play the infinite game. Thank you very much.